Welcome to the Lockbox! Lockbox!
Welcome to the Lockbox, the Lockbox! Hi again, guys. Guess who we got for you today? I've only got Anherd, the leader of Odyssey.
Hello.
And also, he writes theme tune, sings theme tune. It's the Dreadwolf.
Yo.
How are we today, guys?
Not bad.
I'm fucking awesome.
Oh, nice swear words. Alright, let's go.
Bloody awesome.
What are we going to start off with?
I guess the first thing is the DC news and what's been brought out at the last update.
Diddly-did, DC news.
The seasonal event is live. I think most people know what it is. It's the same from last year. A few extras have been added, such as base items, new skeleton style.
That looks pretty awesome, actually, the skeleton style.
It does. No idea how long it's running for. Presumably it will be to the end of the month at least. So definitely jump in and get your spooky bits to get the gears.
I'm guessing it's going to be at least 2 weeks because there's a feat for completing it 13 times, so...
That's correct.
Yeah, there are also new feats for this year's seasonals. Collecting base items, 10 of them. And of course the style feat for the skeleton style.
I think that costs 10 spooky snacks or whatever they're called.
Yeah, spooky bites. 10 spooky bites
Spook
for the
bites.
complete set, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you haven't given it a try, log in and do jump in.
We've also got a new addition to the Boo family. Boo Jr.
Ooh. You've got Mummy, Daddy and Junior now.
Yeah, they've been doing Nordy's Mummy and Daddy, and they made a little Junior Boo.
And now you can actually buy Mr. Boo for spooky bits.
And Miss Boo drops as well, because I got Miss Boo last night in a raid.
I've been really unlucky. I got Boo Jr. on 2 of my farming alts, both of them level 6. They can't use it.
No.
But yeah, moving on, I guess we should bring up the most popular topics of the DC forums.
Go for it.
I guess the biggest announcement that they made last week was the ability to purchase skill points with replay badges in an attempt to make ults more viable.
What the frack?
So just to clarify, you can buy feats that your main has completed, as long as you're the sufficient combat rating, and the currency is replay badges.
So you can buy, if one of your tunes has the full hearth chart style set, you can buy it for your main, if it's not a tank spec or whatever.
We're not quite sure. The details haven't come out yet. We don't know what we can buy, how much it will cost, or how it will work, just that it is in the works. And the reaction has been mostly positive. I mean, you do have a few people a bit upset about it, because obviously skill points are things that people have invested time and energy to acquire, on alts even. And so now the people who can bypass doing that work can have an easy ride. But it's what the community was asking for. It may not be the exact form of making it easier for alts, but you don't get to choose when it comes to that. You know, it's the request has been answered, not to the extent that people would have liked, but I think it's a positive step. I mean, it's not.
Well, there's sort of been a long-running want from the community, I think, for skill points to be account-based anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm very pro this idea. Not having, I have 150 skill points on my main, and it's just boring to farm them all again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't really play with alts too much, but it does seem like a bit of a a boring grind to start a new alt and then have to do all the new content, grind the gear and grind your skill points again from scratch.
Just hope for ProSteven to get one of those triple station cash out soon.
A few obviously negative comments, you know, people who've spent the time doing it on their alts are just a bit, I don't know, upset, shall we say, that it's now going to be so easy for others. But I don't really understand the hesitation or negative feelings towards this. It's a positive step. I mean,
exactly.
You have to take a step back and look at it and think, who is going to buy this? And it's the people who've gone so far in the game that they're sitting on 130 or higher skill points on their main character. And they're the kind of people that, when they buy it, they'll know where to spend those skill points. They're the ones who have the experience, because you don't get to that point without actually experiencing the game to its fullest.
Exactly. The people that are going to be using it, they're going to have got that high amount of skill points in the first place. They've already been there. They've already ground those feats. They've already done the work to put in to do on one character. So why not give them the opportunity to buy for their alts?
And for those that actually have farmed the feats on their alts, look at the positive side, they don't have to pay.
Exactly, and I mean this is progression 101 for an MMO. You don't just stay stuck in the same rut for year after year after year after year. The community asked for it. They need to make alts more viable. This was the solution for both them and for the players.
And besides, you buy those skill points for a new alt. You're still going to have to go through and grind all the gear. You're still going to have to run all the content and stuff to build up your credit rating, your combat rating for that alt anyway. So the grinding doesn't end there.
Yeah, that's it. Details are still sketchy. You know, we don't know exactly what we can purchase or how much it's going to cost, or any limitations on that. But yeah, definitely want to stay tuned to. It's a game changer, really.
More details on that to follow.
Yep.
Yes. And then the second topic that I wanted to bring forward was the decreasing necessity of tanks in raids.
Who needs them?
We started DLC Origin Crisis with the presumption we'd need 2 tanks. So that's Nexus and Paradox. And as we progressed, we've reverted back to a single tank. And even outside of that, in alerts and things, they're just so scarcely required that a lot of them are switching.
The damage debuff, or damage reduction buff.
Exactly. Lots of conversation going on about how they could be made more viable. And I do like the idea of having a Holy Trinity and a tank in an MMO.
I can understand why a lot of people are complaining about it though, because rerunning any of the old raid content, any of the alerts, like you say, if you've got a really well geared DPS, you don't need a tank. You can smash through all that stuff. But on the flip side of that, for the tier 5 stuff, there's no way that you're going to get through Nexus and Paradox without a tank. And I think what a lot of the complaints start from is that if you've got older raid content, for example, with a well geared DPS, a DPS can smash through that anyway. If you've got a tank in that group, then everybody else in that group is not really following the Holy Trinity. They're not staying behind the tank, letting the tank pull the aggro. The DPS are jumping ahead, healers are jumping ahead even, and just smashing through everything. The tank function in that setup becomes defunct.
Absolutely, but there's a case to be made as well to say the tank themselves should be doing more than just being a tank. For example, we've got Cold Fusion and Senelex, both amazing tanks, and they're both strong. They've got strong personalities, and they fulfill leadership roles. So they're at the forefront. They're going forward and encountering the enemies first, telling people where to stand or what to do, because they've got that perspective they can see at the front. Whereas they may not necessarily be required in a Kandak, but we still would go in with the tank just because that kind of leadership and telling people what's coming up and what we should do. Rush past this side. That still works even in a raid of that level.
From my own point of view as a DPS, I still follow the rules of having a tank in the group. I still follow the fact that you should stay behind the tank. The tank goes first, pulls all the aggro. Even if it is older content, I won't jump ahead of the tank. I still like to follow best practice, because I believe if you're doing that, if you're staying behind the tank as you should do, then you're less likely to do it in a new raid. You're less likely to pick up bad habits.
Absolutely agree. So I mean, like I said, there's more that the developers could do to make a tank more viable in all content, but we as players as well should accept that tanks are a necessity in every new raid that comes out, because they'll be the ones at the front pulling the enemies in and taking the hits. So we need to keep them happy through the older content as well.
And not only that, if you've got a newer player to the game that comes in and they're used to running older content, they've been smashed through all the raid content. They've got good gear, but they've not necessarily got the skills that older players have, more veteran players. If they're continuously jumping ahead of the tank because that's all they know how to do, then when they come to the newer content, they're going to be in deep water, if you see what I mean, because they're going to have all these bad habits.
Bringing back the subject of the damage decreasing buff that you get from not having a tank, I mean that was implemented to be able to stabilize the group a bit. Like if you didn't have a tank, you wouldn't be suffering as much. But now people take advantage of that instead. I mean, if they did not implement that buff, the need for a tank would be greater for alerts.
Yeah, and that was a lot of that was for pugs, wasn't it? Because people were going in, they were queuing up for stuff, and they wouldn't have all the roles that were necessary. Say 4 DPS went in, so you've got these extra buffs. You've got a healing buff and a tank buff, a health buff and stuff. That grind.
Exactly. It's like when the tier 5 alerts came out, first the option of the Trigon one. I can't remember how many times I've run it without a tank. It's more times without a tank than with a tank. That's tier 5 content. Even though it's alerts, it's still tier 5. It should be harder.
And then the third and final topic I want to bring up, and I'm quite passionate about, is the best in slot gear items being based too much on luck.
Here.
So you've got your CR 85/86 gear purchasable, but your 87 and 88, you have to be lucky. You have to complete the raid and hope that what you require drops. It affects everybody. I mean, it's topic after topic on this. It's not an easy thing to balance. So from the one side, Meps has responded to this saying, look, if people get their gear too fast, get exactly what they require, then what's the point? Because they're just not going to want to play. They're not going to come back into the content. You get exactly what you want. That's it. You don't touch it again. On the flip side, for the player, I've done Nexus perhaps, I can't even count. I've done it too many times, and I've got the same pair of Time Traveler legs 6 times.
Yeah, likewise. And the boots.
I've been lucky enough to run Paradox and Nexus successfully a lot of times, and I've been lucky enough to get probably about 12 pieces of tracing time gear. And I'm a DPS. I only play DPS. I'm not controller, tank, healer. I'll never play any of those roles. I'm a DPS through and through. And out of those 12 pieces of tracing time gear that I've got, only 1 piece of that has been DPS. The other 11 pieces have been healer.
Yeah.
Which I'm never going to use. And this really pisses me off.
It's a hint.
Yeah. It
Flame, it's time for a change.
No, I'm never going to change. So I have 1 piece of tracing time gear, the shoulders now, for my DPS. But I've got 11 pieces of healer tracing time that I'm never going to use, so I don't want. What is going on?
Yeah, and I mean, I go in again, Paradox Wave, Nexus. We've done it so many times. Don't get what you want, but then there's a player who rarely ever touches Paradox Wave, but they've managed to get their item that they would have specifically wanted, whether it be a weapon or legs, boots, whatever. There's no balance, and the suggestions come thick and fast. People just say, look, flat out make the best gear purchasable. So your 85, 86 gear should have been the best in slot. But then how do you make people want to do the raids? Because what's in the raids is the loot. A suggestion I made was to have the identical items in the raid that you can buy, but the loot drops have different mod slots. And depending on your role, it would fulfill a different function. So for example, if you were a damage and you got a loot item, the mod slot was you had a percentage chance to instantly kill a non-boss enemy. If you were a controller, you had a chance to restore a percentage of power instantly. A healer, you could heal for a certain amount a certain percentage instantly. And then tanks, I couldn't really think of one for tanks.
Shielding's always popular.
Shielding, yeah.
Well,
a damage absorption thing.
My idea would have been like you see on the Raven bounty in the Wastelands, for example. You've got a chance for a box to drop, and if you get that box, then you get to choose a piece of armor that you want, either the head through to the feet. But it'd be for your role that you're actively playing at the time. And I know people might say, well, that gives you the chance to gear up even quicker, because if you're having that box drop, but then you've still only got a percentage chance for that box drop in the first place. At least if you do get the box to drop, you get the chance to choose the piece that you want.
I like that idea.
Yeah, because I mean, tracing time. There's been a couple of pieces I've even salvaged because I've had the healer boots about 3 or 4 times now. The tracing time, and it's really soul destroying to actually salvage those.
Yeah, I mean, I'm being celestial nowadays. I actually wouldn't mind using healer parts for if I would be healing, but I don't get those either. Now that I'm not mental anymore, I of course get controller gear and tank gear.
Yep.
A difficult thing to balance, no doubt. I mean, obviously, the devs have their interest. They want to keep players going back into the game and the content. We as players want to be able to achieve what we want with the time we invest.
Yeah, I would really vote up a random drop for a codex, though. For a codex of your choosing.
Moving on from that then, something I'd like to bring up. We have in the works a contest coming up, a server contest for the whole of the EU community, villains and heroes, a Halloween contest. I haven't got too many details of that yet. We haven't put out any media or anything to advertise it, so I'm just letting you know here that there will be a contest on Halloween, 31st of October of this month. More details to follow, so keep checking out the EU forums and the official forums. There will be details about this, but just giving you a bit of a heads up. It will be very soon that we advertise this in more detail.
Nice.
Yes. What should we speak about next? I've got some genre news, only very quickly though.
Go for
Fire
it.
away.
For those of you that don't know, Arrow Season 2, the Green Arrow TV series, started again last week. Very, very good, very, very good season opener. For those of you that don't know, it focuses on the early days of Green Arrow, but we've already seen some other characters in it. We've seen the beginnings of Red Arrow, Green Arrow's sidekick. We've seen Black Canary, we've seen the Huntress in that TV show. Really, really good. If you're a fan of DC, any fan of the comics, you'll see lots of interesting Easter eggs in there. Lots of DC stuff mentioned, like Star Labs and things like that. So check it out. Season 2 just started. Episode 2 is next week. And also, if you're a fan of zombies and lots of killing and death and blood and guts and gore, we've got The Walking Dead season 4 starting again this evening. It's Sunday for us, but it
sounded like you were going to introduce Dreadwolf first. Blood and guts and gore.
Yeah. So The Walking Dead season 4 starts tonight, Sunday the 13th of October. Brilliant series if you haven't seen that before. Absolutely excellent. I'm going to be watching it.
Awesome.
But that's all the news that I have so far. No interview for this week, guys, but we haven't forgotten about those. We will have future interviews for you. But apart from that, I don't think we've got anything else to speak about at the moment, have we?
No, that was it. Just pretty heavily DC related today.
Yes, so I'll take this opportunity to thank the Dreadwolf and her for joining me for episode 10 of the Lockbox. Thanks, guys.
My pleasure.
It was a pleasure.
And if you have any comments, if you've got any ideas or views that you'd like to share with us, then please leave some comments in the thread below. We'll also be advertising the Lockbox on the EU and the official forums, so look out for us on there. And also just chuck us any ideas, any comments, good or bad, for us that you want to share. And from myself, Flame Fury, Dreadwolf and her, thanks for watching us again.
Thank you.
We'll say goodbye for now.
Bye-bye.
And remember, kids,
it ain't never rats.
Awesome.